What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM here today, episode 353 for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Drop a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get right started here, right into it here, with No Laura from YouTube. Their first question was, or their only question rather, who do you think needs to go to SmackDown with the WWE draft coming up, and what people should stay in NXT? We'll start with the NXT part of the question first. I thought it would be easier just to name people who should go to the main roster as opposed to people who should stay. Like, for example, I could see Candice getting called up, or a Johnny or a Tommaso. Do I think they will? Probably not. They've been in NXT long enough. Candice I could see moving up at some point. Johnny and Tommaso sound like they're NXT for life. You know, Candice very well maybe as well. I don't think she needs to go up right now. Same thing with like a Tegan Nox or a Dakota Kai. I don't really see those women going anywhere. For the men, again, I could see Adam Cole definitely moving at some point, whether it be in the WWE draft. Will it be in the WWE draft? I'm not sure. But in terms of people who I could see moving, Adam Cole certainly leads that list, along with Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish. I don't want to see them debut as part of a draft, though. I would rather see them show up on Raw, wreak havoc, or on SmackDown instead. Either way, I feel like that would be more Undisputed Era than just getting drafted to a show like the Street Profits last year, Finn Balor's another one who I could see going back to SmackDown or Raw, preferably SmackDown, but Raw probably needs more help than SmackDown does at this point. SmackDown just got Sami Zayn back. Daniel Bryan's probably on his way back at some point. They have heel Roman Reigns. I don't know if SmackDown exactly needs Finn Balor at this point. They just got Matt Riddle as a call-up. Raw just got Keith Lee, but I think of the two, Balor might be a better fit on SmackDown in my opinion, if only so we could get The Fiend versus the Demon for real this time. So I think that'd be cool eventually. But yeah, Balor I could see moving back, but considering Cole and Balor are facing off for the NXT Championship next week, that tells me one of those guys ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Obviously, Balor will be winning. Cole, I think, is main roster bound soon enough, but I think Balor's probably winning that. Likely to feud with Tommaso for the next couple of months if I had to take a guess. Mia Yim I could see moving. Keith Lee just got moved up. It's been rumored that she might be a part of Retribution, which isn't a bad fit. I feel like Retribution might be more of a hindrance to someone's career than it might be a help. But I've seen Mia Yim potentially being, named as one of the members for Retribution. Even if she's not, I think, not that you always have to keep the couples together. It would be for the best. But not only that, but she's been in NXT now for like 3 years. She's not going to win the championship, I would assume at this point. So you may as well just call her up. She just lost to Shotzi Blackheart last week, which to me kind of felt like a passing of the torch from Yim to Shotzi, who's kind of on her way up in the NXT women's division. So I would call up Mia Yim. Dominik Dijakovic's a given. We haven't seen him since he lost to Karrion Kross like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It feels like he's locked, ready, and loaded for the main roster. Likely a part of Retribution. There was a member on Monday's Raw that looked like it probably was Dijakovic. And I would rather see him on his own, but would he flounder? That's the question. But Dijakovic, I think, is sealed, a sealed sign and delivered for the main roster at this point. Just more a matter of when than if they debut him. Rhea Ripley, again, more a matter of when, I think, at this point. I don't think she should be a part of Retribution. I think that'd be dumb. I think she can fly perfectly fine on her own on either Raw or SmackDown. Probably SmackDown. SmackDown needs more help at this point than the Raw women's division does, and both are kind of in desperate need of more stars and intriguing storylines, like the whole Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler shit. Couldn't give two fucks. Mickie James versus Lana and Natalya. I couldn't give two fucks, I could see her going to SmackDown, though. And then lastly, Velveteen Dream. Now, I know there's a lot of shit going on around him, or surrounding him at the moment, and rightfully so. He has not yet been cleared of the charges. Triple H said that he was. Take that with a massive grain of salt. Regardless, though, he's done all there is to do in NXT. Unless he was to go back and form that tag team with Dexter Lumis at some point, which they kind of teased a couple of months ago before he got in that car accident and the whole speaking movement. There's a whole speaking out movement kind of came forward in late June. it kind of seemed like they were headed in that direction. So I could see them maybe reigniting that. Them versus Breezango would be interesting. Although I do think the tag titles are headed for El Legado del Fantasma. So maybe not. But unless he's teaming up with Dexter Lumis, which even that, for a lot of people, probably wouldn't light the world on fire. He's already held the North American Championship for a very long period. He's gone for the NXT Championship several times and lost. Nor should he win at this point. It's time for him to move on. He's been in NXT now for fucking 3.5 years. That's almost longer than Sami Zayn. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's time for the guy to move up. Whether he would be well received or not is the question, due to everything going on around him, again, surrounding him at the moment, going on about him at the moment. So I'm not exactly sure that would be the best move professionally to award someone or, to reward someone that may not be deserving of it. But from a character standpoint, he's got to move on. Unless you're going to keep him in NXT to do nothing, then he's got to move on to the main roster at this point. At Call Me PSN also from YouTube, what are the pros and cons of Murphy possibly breaking away from Seth Rollins? The pros are that the matches could be amazing. Another pro is that I think Murphy could be a real awesome babyface. We kind of saw shades of that about a year ago, almost exactly, when I was going to say he broke away from someone, but he actually didn't. He was a heel for his entire run on 205 Live, and then he moved to SmackDown. And we kind of saw him break away as a babyface. He had those matches with Roman, Daniel Bryan, who was a heel at that point. All great matches. And then they went nowhere with it, which was disappointing. But I think he could be a real great babyface, to be honest with you. The cons are that I feel that I don't think it's too soon. It's been 8 months. He first recruited Murphy at the beginning of the year, at the very onset of 2020. It's been 8 months. They don't need to be together for a year. They've already held the tag titles together. He got pinned by Dominic in that tag team match. And maybe do Dominic and Murphy one of these weeks on Raw, have Dominic win, and then that's like the final straw for Seth to turn on Murphy, and then Murphy just has enough and kind of, it could go one of two ways. I could see Murphy turning on Rollins and becoming this big breakout babyface, or it could go the way of The Miz and Alex Riley. That's what this feels like to me from 9 years ago, which I thought was great. The split was great. People really got behind Alex Riley at that point. Got a great theme song. Probably better. Hopefully Murphy can come out of this with a better theme song because his current one sucks. But at any rate, he can get a big reaction. Granted, there's no fans. What really made that Alex Riley turn so special back in May of 2011 was the fact that the fans really reacted to him like he was a star. The issue with that, he beat The Miz on pay-per-view, and then he went nowhere after that. Now, reportedly, John Cena had a lot to do with his push being plugged, getting the plug pulled on his push. John Cena reportedly had a lot to do with that. He's kind of hinted at that. He's never really confirmed that over the years. But at any rate, though, I do think there's a pretty good chance that we could see Murphy turning on Rollins at some point in the near future, which I think would be awesome. It's more a question of where he goes from there. Would they follow up on him as a big star in the show, as a breakout babyface, or would he go the way of a Ricochet, or a Mustafa Ali, or a Cedric Alexander, or a Humberto Carrillo? I think breaking the two up and sending Murphy over to SmackDown could be really, really good for his career, to be honest with you. So I like the idea of Murphy splitting away from Seth, unless they're going to bring back AOP and reunite the faction, and then you're going to keep the guys together for a little longer. I like that idea. But at last word, from what I read about a week ago, per Dave Meltzer, I think, and again, the guy doesn't always know everything, but I think the current plan when AOP comes back, whenever that might be, whether it be sooner or later, I'm not sure, is to have them branch off on their own and not put them back with Seth. So if that's the case, you don't really, and Austin Theory's already back down in NXT. So this whole Rollins faction thing is already kind of off. I can't say off to a bad start because it was off to a great start earlier this year, but it hasn't exactly worked out the way they were hoping, with Rollins having all these minions, and he's had Murphy, which is great, but it could have been more had AOP not gotten hurt and had Austin Theory not fucked up and gotten suspended or whatever the case may have been. But I think Murphy can be a real great face. I think the moment of him turning on Seth could be great too, but it's all about the aftermath. I say it all the time, but it's true. What do you do to follow up that great moment? That's the question. And that's what I fear for with Murphy, because reportedly, Paul Heyman was one of his biggest supporters. It was probably why Murphy ended up with Rollins in the first place. But now that Paul Heyman's no longer creatively in charge, what does that mean for Murphy once he breaks away from Seth? That's what I'm worried about. Although he has all the tools to be a big star on his own. who will be the person to successfully stand up to the Hurt Business on Raw Underground? Their second question was from Call Me PSN. That's a good question. I've liked that the Hurt Business has essentially dominated Raw Underground in recent weeks. Who's going to stand up to them? I don't know. I mean, honestly, Samoa Joe would be fucking sick. I would rather see that in the ring, like with a great reaction of him like standing up to Bobby Lashley or an MVP or whatever, who he has history with from Impact. I think that'd be awesome. I don't see them doing that, but I think that'd be cool. Just because Samoa Joe, I mean, I know he's a great commentator, and listen, there's a time and a place for that, and the Raw commentary team definitely needs him. Tom Phillips is good, but he's not special. Byron Saxton, exactly the same thing, probably worse, in my opinion, than Phillips, and again, in my opinion. So I think the Raw commentary team needs him, but he only has, so many good years left of his in-ring career. So why not maximize on that and put him back in the ring for a short period, and hopefully he doesn't get hurt again, because he always seems to get hurt. But I think it'd be cool to see him back in the ring, doing his thing, and standing up to the Hurt Business. And on Raw Underground, that'd be fucking awesome. Him and Bobby Lashley in the Raw Underground setting would be sick. I would say Brock Lesnar, but one, he's no longer under contract, apparently by WWE, at least not as of now, and he will be back. He's not AEW bound, blah, blah, blah. I doubt that happens, obviously. But I also don't see Brock showing up and making his grand return in a fucking warehouse against Bobby Lashley in Raw Underground. He probably wipes his ass with a Raw Underground every night at home. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't watch the show. I doubt that's what he would want to do. But it would make for a great visual for the Hurt Business to dominate Raw Underground, and then the door opens and you see Brock fucking Lesnar show up. I think that would be an amazing moment. Emmanuel A. from YouTube. Speaking of Shrek, how do you feel about the legacy of the Shrek franchise? I actually wrote a school essay about it once. Shrek started off as a surprisingly influential series in the 2000s, as the first Shrek got praised for being refreshing and different from the Disney formula, and even won the first Oscar for Best Animated Feature. Shrek 2 broke box office records, and more animated films started to trying to emulate its style and humor. But it took a hit when Shrek the Third underperformed, and DreamWorks themselves moved away from Shrek's formula, even when Shrek Forever After and the Puss in Boots spin-off movies were less gag-driven and more drama-based. Then, of course, years later, Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life started a meme movement of treating Shrek as a god and worshipping the films as cinematic masterpieces, which ironically led to people genuinely reminiscing about Shrek and helping it become popular again. That's an excellent analysis of Shrek that I didn't know we needed here on the show, but here it is. I completely agree with essentially everything you just said. I've spoken enough about Shrek in recent weeks here on the show, so I won't go into too much detail about it here. But I've said before, Shrek 2, one of the greatest sequels, animated sequels of all time, in my opinion. I love the first movie. I saw the first movie in theaters. I think I saw them all in theaters, to be honest with you. I think the first one, definitely the second one, definitely the third, and probably the fourth as well. I've seen all four movies. I barely remember anything about that fourth movie. Yeah, I think I did see them all in theaters, but the fourth one was just a complete afterthought. I think they're making a fifth right now. The third one was good. The first two were just could not be touched. In many ways, the second one is better than the first. In many ways. And the soundtrack for both movies is great, too. It's not like, I don't know, I guess people are kind of reminiscing about how good the movies are, but I've always realized how good the movies are. Specifically the first two. I don't have a lot of faith that the fifth one is going to be worth the wait. It's going to be anything special. But I also heard talks about a fifth Shrek movie like fucking 5 years ago, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. But, yeah, no, I think you hit the nail right on the head there with your analysis of the Shrek franchise. At Reborn Again, John Ritland, check out his YouTube channel, Real Honesty with John Ritland, great content. His first question was, Retribution will be exclusive to Raw. Why? That's a good question. It's nice to know that Retribution is, going to be sticking to a set plan moving forward as a Raw group. Dude, who gives a fuck? Who gives a shit about any of this stuff, with Retribution? I personally like when groups are, exclusive to one show or the other. But with, a group like this, it's not about brand split rules. Why the fuck would they give a shit about the brand split? They should be showing up on all the shows. But what's so weird about this group, and maybe there's a bigger plan in place, and, I would love to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they do these type of storylines all the time for no rhyme or reason. They do shit at random with no real, genuine, satisfying payoff. So why would I give them the benefit of the doubt? You know what I mean? I'm automatically conditioned to think they're going to go down the wrong path or just not pay it off at all. Look no further than the dumb hacker shit on SmackDown. That actually had promise. That could have been interesting. They just ignored the payoff and never really paid it off in any meaningful manner whatsoever. With Retribution, I don't know if it's going to be the same thing, but I fear that it will. And I feel like with Retribution showing up on all the shows, like, listen, they're not in NXT. They don't show up on the pay-per-views. They're willing to crash the main event of Raw about a week ago, and then they don't show up at SummerSlam, and they don't show up at Payback. Now, could that have something to do with Roman Reigns? That Roman Reigns and Retribution have not been in the same place at the same time. Now, I don't think Roman is one of the people under the mask. That would be dumb. But could he be pulling the strings alongside Paul Heyman? That is very possible. And I think that could be interesting. But then if you have them exclusive to Raw, you really can't do that. Because why would Roman be controlling a group that's only exclusive to Raw? Like, the whole thing is fucked up. Like, who gives a shit? They probably realized, oh, maybe only the Raw ratings are in the shitter, so let's put this on Raw. You would think they'd only have them on SmackDown. Just because Raw already has Raw Underground, so why do they need this new masked faction instead? Or in addition to that, you know? I just don't really understand that, so. Yeah, I couldn't get too fucks. They're still doing the same shit, attacking people at random, haven't unmasked anyone. I know patience is key, but like, again, this is WWE. I can see anyone saying that doesn't really know the product saying, listen, it's a TV show. They drag this stuff out for a while. You're impatient, wait for the payoff. WWE very rarely is like an actual television show. If this was a television show through and through like any other show on TV, it would be one of the worst shows out there because there's rarely ever any consistency with a lot of their characters and storylines. So don't even get me started on that shit. But yeah, I just don't really care that they're exclusive to one show or the other just because I don't care about the group in general, to be honest with you. Which match could you see stealing the show at All Out? Well, my initial instinct is to say Shida and Thunder Rosa. Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa. That match should be great. I know you, John, agree. You're very excited for that, as I am. He's a big Thunder Rosa fan. There is footage out there that exists, that I'm sure if you look hard enough, of John dancing with Thunder Rosa at, I think, a cause... What is it? A Wrestling Without a Cause? WAC? It's a promotion out where John lives on the West Coast. And this was years ago. This was like maybe a year or two ago. And I've always been familiar with the name Thunder Rosa. I knew of her work in Lucha. I think it's Cobra Moon is who she was. I didn't give two shits about the character, but she's really coming to her own as a star in the NWA. And it's cool to see her in AEW. So hopefully this is, this extends beyond the All Out pay-per-view. We see more of her in AEW beyond this. So I think that match is going to be great. You also have FTR versus Omega and Hangman, which after seeing the Bucks versus Page and Omega back at the Revolution pay-per-view in February, that match it might just be my favorite match all year, like in any promotion. And I know that's not a stretch to say. Meltzer said it was the greatest tag team match in American history. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But of the year, I don't think there's much of an argument there. There's a lot of great matches. I really enjoyed that Daniel Bryan AJ Styles match on SmackDown back in June for the Intercontinental Championship. But, I think that one gets the edge just because it had a crowd there in Chicago that reacted like they were fucking gods out there. And rightfully so. Usually I'd be like, listen, they're just popping for anything. But, in this case, in the case of that tag team match at Revolution, it was that good. It was that fucking good. So, anyway, that tag team match at All Out should be great with FTR, Omega, and Hangman, especially with the whole Bucks thing. And Hangman being kicked out of the Elite, where is that going to lead? Very interested and intrigued and invested in that. So, what else do we have? Oh, I think we have Hardy and Guevara and a last man standing broken rules match or some shit. I don't know. I mean, the first match was rushed. I like Hardy. I like Guevara. I'm not exactly overly anticipating it. They really should have just saved the fucking match for the pay-per-view. That match last week was incredibly disappointing. It was fun while it lasted, but it was 5 minutes, and half of that was a commercial break. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, that's just bad formatting. Not that WWE doesn't do that either, because they definitely did that a lot, but, it was disappointing that it happened at such a highly touted main event. So, anyway. That could be good, though. What else do they have on the show? I know they have, the Casino Battle Royale. Dude, I mean, I feel like we see battle royals in this company all the time. It's so fucking annoying. Just do Darby Allin and Ricky Starks, or Darby Allin versus Brian Cage. Those matches make sense. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel here by doing another fucking Casino Battle Royale. We just saw one at Double or Nothing. Albeit in a different format, but come on. I thought that was dumb. I'm not a big fan of that at all. The 8-man tag team match, Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks versus Private Party and SCU, clearly... Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's actually on Dynamite tonight. The winners will face each other at the pay-per-view on Saturday, which is probably going to be, let's face it, Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express. That could be a lot of fun, too. I was not fond... If anything, I was disappointed by the 6-man tag team match that Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks had against each other a number of weeks ago on Dynamite. I think it was like the Young Bucks and Omega versus the entire Jurassic Express. And it was fine, but it was like kind of a mess, and it was all over the place, way too frantic. An actual 2-on-2 tag team match could be great, though. And then, oh man, what else was I thinking about? Of course, the 8-man tag team match. I don't give a fuck about that. The Dark Order, it's so random. Like, QT Marshall, I don't give a shit about. Dustin Rhodes is good, but, like, who cares? Scorpio Sky is random. I know he just faced Cody, but, like, why the hell would he want to avenge Cody's attack? You know what I mean? And the Matt Cardona, it's cool to see him on AEW pay-per-view, but, like, I like the Dark Order. I'm actually one of their defenders. The group has grown on me. I've talked about that before. The 8-man tag team match, though, I just could not give two fucks, to be honest with you. John's third question here, non-wrestling related, but it's the 40th anniversary of the legendary comedy Airplane. Have you seen it? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it still holds up even today? I know the name sounded familiar, and then I realized what movie it was. I forgot what the name of the guy that stars in it, and of course, John, you're going to correct me. Please do. I could look it up. You know what? Fuck it. I'll look it up right now. I've seen the movie, yes, to answer your question. My stepdad actually showed it to me, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago. God, what's his name? Leslie Nielsen. Leslie Nielsen. I'm a big fan of his. I have seen the movie before. I enjoyed it when it came out. It wasn't like among my... Not when it came out, I'm sorry. That was in 1980. I was barely even a thought in my mother's mind at that point. I was born in 95. Jesus Christ. So, it's a very good movie. It is a very good movie. Does it hold up today? I feel like if you show someone that's younger, and I'm 25, but like someone younger than me, they probably wouldn't get it. They wouldn't appreciate it. They wouldn't find it funny. It's definitely a different type of humor. I really, really enjoy Leslie Nielsen, and I liked the movie. It wasn't like I'm dying of laughter, but like it was just a different time. It was 1980. And I think it's a good comedy parody movie. We kind of get that today, and some of the parodies they do now are really fucking dumb. Like, for example, I would watch this movie any day of the week over, like... I liked Epic Movie when it came out, like, 15 years ago, but, like, the superhero movie, disaster movie, whatever the fuck they were called, were just atrocious. Like, really, really bad. Really, really bad. But this one was good. I enjoyed Airplane. I would definitely recommend people check it out. Again, I don't know if people would love it. I think it's on Netflix. It's saying here on Google. I don't know if people are going to fall in love with it, but with it, celebrating 40 years, I would recommend it. At Jeremy8and911, his first question was, could you see Big E and Keith Lee walking out of WrestleMania, WWE and Universal Champions? That's a great question. Could I? Yes. Do I? No. I don't think that's going to happen. Very rarely does WWE do the whole, crowning of two new stars in the same night. Yeah, we kind of got that last year. I mean, Becky Lynch was already a champion in the main event of WrestleMania, going into the main event of WrestleMania. She'd already been champion like 2 or 3 times. And then you have, what was I going to say? Seth Rollins, who also won a world championship at WrestleMania 35. But again, he was already a made man. He was already like a 3-time world champion by the time he won, or maybe a 2-time world champion by the time he won the Universal Championship last year. Keith Lee and Big E on the main roster have never won World Championship gold. And they could always win World Championship gold between now and WrestleMania. I don't doubt that. Listen, I would love nothing more than to see that happen. Both guys are very deserving. They've earned it, more importantly. And they're great. I think Big E could be a great world champion. I think Keith Lee could be a great world champion too. Do I see them creating 2 new stars in the same night? No, I don't. It's not that they've never done it. You go back 15 years to WrestleMania 21, they put the championship on John Cena for the first time on the same show that they crowned Batista as a world champion for the first time as well. So they have done it. They are capable of doing it. I don't see them doing that now, but I think it would be cool. So hopefully they can kind of continue along this current trajectory that they're on, continuing to pick up big wins, building momentum, getting the crowd on their side, which they already kind of have. Keith Lee, we don't know how much the main roster audience cares about him just because there's no crowd reactions on Raw right now. We knew he was a star in NXT. Will that translate to the main roster? That's the question. Big E, we know people like Big E, so I'm sure that would work if we have some fans back in attendance by that point. But yeah, I could see it happening. Do I see it happening as in, like, do I predict it's going to happen? No, maybe one of the two, maybe. If I had to take a guess, probably Keith Lee. I feel like they're higher on Keith than they are Big E. But Big E is great in his own right, and I would love nothing more than to see that happen. His second question, thoughts on Roman Reigns' heel turn, and who all do you want to see him feud with? So kind of oddly worded there at the end. But you're asking who I want to see him feud with. I love the Roman Reigns heel turn. Now, listen, I ate my hat for breakfast this morning. I think I said it here on the show last week that it would come on the show and eat my hat, and I still have to do that. But I did have part of my hat for breakfast this morning, and it tasted pretty damn good. But in all seriousness, though, I am so glad to have been wrong. You know, I came on the show a week ago, and again, I shit all over the idea, not on the idea of Roman turning heel. It was the idea that people had thought he had turned heel. And really, can you blame me? Can you blame anyone who shot down the rumors of Roman going heel just because he came back looking more aggressive than he did before? We had seen it before. At TLC 2015, he just beat the shit out of the Authority and people went nuts for it. He didn't turn heel. He just became more aggressive. So you can't blame me and other people for thinking, okay, that's not a fucking heel turn. Like, we've seen this a million times from Roman. Like when he almost killed Braun Strowman with a fucking ambulance a number of years ago. That felt like a heel turn, but it wasn't. What we got this week, the aligning with Paul Heyman between him and Roman, has heel turn written all over it, and especially after what he did at Payback. I mean, if the guy's not a heel now, I would be shocked. And again, there's no crowd reaction there, so it's kind of hard to tell. Not that it's always super indicative. I mean, to be completely honest here, let's go back 2 years when Becky Lynch went heel at SummerSlam. She got cheered the next night, or 2 nights later on SmackDown. She got cheered when she turned heel. You would think that she went babyface after turning on Charlotte Flair. So I love the idea of the heel turn. It's something fresh. It's something new. I am very excited to see what the fallout on SmackDown is going to be. Please don't disappoint me, WWE. Please don't disappoint me. Because this has potential, a lot of potential to be great. And who do I want to see him feud with is a great question as well. It's not going to work right now because he's also currently heel. But inevitably, when AJ Styles goes back to being a babyface, that's a feud I need to fucking see. I think Roman and AJ after the matches they had 4 years ago, and I don't think we've gotten a rematch since then. I don't think we've gotten Roman and AJ since that Extreme Rules match 4 years ago. That would be fucking awesome. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So, AJ and Roman is something I think would be great with heel Roman, babyface AJ. Babyface Balor, heel Roman. They have a history from 2018, or rather 2016 when Balor debuted and beat Roman. I think Roman eventually avenged that loss a couple of times. Once in 2018 and once in 2017. But yeah, I think a Balor-Roman feud could be a lot of fun. I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously him and Keith Lee would be great, just based off the chemistry they had at Survivor Series last year, throwing the fact that Roman's a heel. That has money written all over it. Him and Bryan, rekindling their rivalry from, what was it, early 2015. I think, did they have many matches last year? Did we ever get Roman and Bryan last year? One-on-one. I feel like we did, but I also feel like we didn't. I know we were about to get that feud, and then Bryan became a babyface again, so we didn't. But I think doing that match again with Roman as the heel, which he basically was in 2015, but like as a fully cemented heel, fully established heel, Roman versus a babyface Bryan could be great. So those are just a few. And then you get thrown like from NXT the Johnny Garganos, Matt Riddle would be awesome. Who else does SmackDown have that would be interesting? Braun, I mean, he's kind of a heel now anyway, so probably not. Raw, I mean, a babyface Seth versus heel Roman we've never seen. I mean, when Rollins inevitably goes back to being a babyface at some point, that could be interesting. You know, all the guys on Raw, Ricochet would be cool. Ali, I think, would be awesome versus Roman as a heel Roman. Because Roman is very good. And you throw in the fact he's a heel now, I think that has money written all fucking over it. At noob_n_co 1991, what are your thoughts on Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler as the women's tag team champions? I say Shayna should have gone after Asuka in the Raw Women's Championship. It should have been Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott that beat Sasha Banks and Bayley for those titles. I completely agree all the way around. I think Nia and Shayna as the tag team champions, it does nothing for me. I couldn't give two shits. I like Shayna. I thought the finish to that match on Sunday with her in Nia versus Banks and Bayley was great. All because of Shayna. It had nothing to do with Nia. I just don't really understand what the whole purpose of the tag team is. Is it supposed to be like a Team Hell No type dynamic? Are they supposed to be building to a singles match at some point, which I also have no desire to see? Nia is just terrible. So maybe this makes her bearable by putting her with someone that is actually good. But like you said, Shayna and Asuka was the ready-made feud. Shayna literally came on fucking Raw a couple of weeks ago and said, listen, Asuka, when you win that championship at SummerSlam, and I know you will, I'm going to be your first challenger. What the fuck happened to that? The whole shit with Shayna saying, oh, I'll team with you, Nia, if you get off my back, is so stupid. That does not sound like the NXT Shayna Baszler. NXT Shayna Baszler would just beat the fuck out of Nia and leave her be. And say, listen, I'll just beat the shit out of you every week until you leave me alone. That's what the NXT Shayna would do. Teaming with her to win a championship she doesn't care about makes no sense to me. And I completely agree. I think the Riot Squad, who will get the championships at some point, I know they became number one contenders this past week. I don't see them winning it anytime soon. I know they're getting the next shot, whether it be on Raw or the next pay-per-view or whatever. I don't know. I just feel like why would they take the belts off of... I mean, I guess they could. They've done this before, but I don't see them losing the championships literally like a month after winning them. Banks and Nia and Shayna. I think that'd be great. Trust me, I think the Riot Squad winning the championships over Nia and Shayna would be great. I just don't see that happening. So, yeah, I think the Riot Squad should have beaten them for the belts because the moment would have meant more. And I think that would have been just a much better idea. Their second question, which female superstars should join the Hurt Business? I would like to see Mia Yim join because Shelton Benjamin is in the faction. Maybe Naomi so she can be a heel again. Or Sasha Banks can join the Hurt Business. You know, that's a good question. I was watching Raw Talk. Bobby Lashley brought that up, I think. And I'm thinking to myself, I talked about this in my Raw Talk review here on the channel yesterday. Check it out, cheap plug. And I looked up and down the roster from Raw, SmackDown, even NXT, and I'm like, who would make sense? And honestly, no one really does. Unless they recruited Montez and Montez brought Bianca with them, which I don't think they should do. I don't think they would do that right now. Just because Montez and Angelo are the current Raw Tag Team Champions, so why would he have any reason to go heel? Maybe down the road, but I think they have a longer shelf life than just a year. The Street Profits, that is, as a team on the main roster. But anyway, I think that would just be premature. So other than that, I just don't see a scenario where they get a woman in their faction. Just no one that makes sense. You mentioned Naomi, so she can be a heel again. I don't think she has to be a heel again. And even if you do turn her heel, well, she's on SmackDown. I guess you could draft her over to Raw. I mean, not that shit really even matters at this point. Even Naomi, just because she's, black? I don't get it. Like, because she just doesn't fit. It's not even, it doesn't even have to be someone black, white, blah, blah, blah. And I've said this before. If someone makes sense to join the group, then I would be okay with it. They even established you don't have to be a certain color to be in the group. I've said Cedric just because I think he makes sense. But like Samoa Joe, I mean, he's not black, but he's also Samoan. I think he would be great in the group, if not feuding with them. But Naomi, I don't know. I like Naomi a lot. I just don't see her being a good fit for that faction. I don't see her coming out there wearing suits. I think she's just much better off on her own, to be honest with you. Sasha's interesting. Sasha, I think of anyone on these shows would be a good fit. But I just don't see it happening, nor should it happen, just because, again, she's good on her own. And she's obviously headed for a face turn or a tweener turn, whatever, when she breaks away from Bayley. So why would you break away from Bayley only to put her with another heel group if she's bound to be a babyface at some point, So she's probably a good fit for it, just storyline-wise. Right now, it just doesn't make sense. And also, Sasha's another one where she's perfectly fine on her own. She doesn't need a faction. She doesn't need to be their valet or whatever. Lana, honestly, I hate the idea of Lana and Lashley reuniting. She wouldn't be a bad fit for a group like that. I mean, she was terrible like the League of Nations and shit just because that group was terrible. And Lana herself is no good. But in terms of being like a valet type, Lana fits that role fairly well. I just don't want to see her reunite with Lashley because that whole shit was terrible. It was terrible. You mentioned Mia Yim. I just can't get behind that. I know you mentioned Shelton's in the faction. They're close. I don't know. We've just been so accustomed this year alone, literally like 2 or 3 months ago, to seeing Keith Lee with Mia Yim. Like, we know that they're a relation. We know that they're a couple. We know they're in a relationship. So to turn her heel and put her with the Hurt Business, unless they're feuding with the Hurt Business, unless Keith Lee is feuding with the Hurt Business, that would be an interesting development. But again, even her, I just don't see. I honestly see her being a better fit for Retribution than the Hurt Business. And I think Retribution is terrible, but I think she's a better fit for a group like that wreaking havoc than the whole suit-wearing thing. So honestly, again, looking at all the women on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, I don't see anyone. I think a female member would be great. But I just don't see anyone on any one of these rosters that makes the most sense. So maybe someone can change my mind. Maybe there's someone I'm not thinking of. Tessa maybe, but Tessa I think would be better. First of all, I think bringing in Tessa would be a massive mistake right now because there's a lot of negativity surrounding her. Doesn't send a great message. I think she'd be a fantastic fit for like a four horsemen type group in AEW with FTR and Cody and her dad and whatever. I don't see that happening either. I don't think AEW is going to fucking touch her anytime soon. But I think she'd be a better fit for a group like that than the Hurt Business. So anyway, I don't know. I'd have to look at the rosters again. No one really makes sense, but those 3 people you named aren't bad choices, but Mia Yim just doesn't really make sense to me. Naomi is better off on her own, and Sasha Banks is not only better off on her own, but currently involved in another storyline that doesn't really make sense with her joining the group. When she breaks away from Bayley, she's got to be on her own, be her own woman again, be champion. She doesn't really need to be overshadowed by the rest of the Hurt Business. And I love the faction. I would love to see a female member with them, but currently no one right now makes sense. His next question, do you think Mickie James will be Asuka's next challenger for the Raw Women's Championship at Clash of Champions this month? I'm interested in the feud, and hopefully it'll lead to something interesting, he says. Yeah, probably. It'll probably be Asuka and Mickie the next pay-per-view. You know what? If nothing else, it's fresh. They really got to rehab Mickie. She beat Lana this week. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I mean, that's the first match that she's won on TV in how long? What, a year and a half? 2 years? I mean, I love Mickie James, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy she's back, but if they brought her back as a threat from the get-go as opposed to losing to Natalya via countout in 3 minutes, then I think the idea of her and Asuka would have been a lot more intriguing. But they bring back Mickie James, they book her like a loser, and now they expect us to care about her. Like, come on, man. Like, it just makes no sense. We know they can have a great match. I thought the TakeOver match they had 4 years ago, TakeOver Toronto 1, was actually really, really good. It just, from a booking standpoint, Mickie does not feel like a threat to that championship at all. Like, whatsoever. I mean, Asuka fucking beat Sasha after already losing to Bayley at SummerSlam. So if she can beat one of those women, and she's actually beaten them both in general. She's beaten Bayley multiple times. What makes viewers think that Mickie James could beat Asuka? Especially after Asuka just regained the gold. I feel like to have it change hands again anytime soon would be a waste. So, yeah, I like the match a lot, but they really got to build up Mickie James again to make her mean something. To make that match mean something as well. At Iwagu91, your thoughts on Keith Lee wrestling in a tight shirt? Upon him reverting back to wrestling tights while still wearing said shirt, I immediately didn't mind the look. Again, what are your thoughts? So, with Keith Lee's look, I thought he looked just... It's not his fault. Maybe it was his fault if it was his idea, but I thought the baggy shorts in the shirt last week looked fucking dumb. The baggy shorts specifically looked like a fucking dress. It looked ridiculous. It looked like a skirt. So, the baggy pants being ditched was a plus. At least he's got the pants back. The tight shirt, I don't mind it. I think I don't know. This is what my issue is. Why would you take something that worked in NXT? He had the shorts, he had no shirt on, and then fucking change it. Like, why even bother calling people up if you're not going to have them be what they were initially? And it worked. No one called him fat. No one was distracted by his body shape in NXT. Mr. McMahon, Vince McMahon is a weird man. By all accounts, he's a weird man. So that doesn't surprise me. It's an improvement, and I'll deal with it. But I just don't understand. Like, shirt, no shirt, that doesn't really matter. The tight shirt looks better than if he's wearing like a fucking t-shirt like Kevin Owens or something. Kevin Owens, he makes the work look. I don't really mind the baggy pants on him and the baggy t-shirt, whatever. It doesn't make sense for Keith Lee. He has a different body type. He's had a different look for years now. That just makes no sense. But the tight shirt, it's an improvement. It's an improvement. I don't love it, but it's an improvement. What are your thoughts on Keith Lee upsetting Randy Orton at Payback? I love it. I thought the match was unspectacular. I think they can have a much better match. They only went 5 or 6 minutes, and it's not even like Keith Lee dominated Randy. Like, if he dominated Randy the same way that Brody Lee dominated Cody a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite 2 weeks ago, then it would be like, holy shit, that's sick. It was like a competitive match for a few minutes, never got out of that first gear, and then Keith Lee just won out of nowhere. But that's not really the point. I don't want to complain about everything. The match just wasn't what I was hoping it to be, but it doesn't even matter. Keith Lee won. That's all that fucking matters. That's all that what people are going to remember coming out of that show. Keith Lee beat Randy Orton clean. So it's a big win. I'm very happy to see that they're high on Keith Lee. I thought the debut was flat, but I never at any point said, while ranting on that Keith Lee debut, that the guy was dead and buried and that he had no chance to succeed. He just got off to a kind of a rough start a week ago. But they made up for it by having him beat Randy on Raw, or rather at Payback, having him beat Dolph on Raw, and having a great showing in the triple threat in the main event of Raw on Monday night. So he'll be perfectly fine. I thought it was the right decision to put him over Orton. And, hopefully it's onward and upward from here for Keith Lee. And hopefully it's not one of those things where, like, for example, Kevin Owens beats John Cena in his pay-per-view debut. His first match, technically, in the WWE main roster. Clean. Clean as a sheet. And it was a great match to boot. And then they had him lose the next 2 matches. And then he settled into a mid-card role from that point forward. Like, come on, man. I know he ended up becoming Universal Champion barely, and he probably wouldn't have won the championship had Balor not gotten hurt, let's face it. So, yeah, with Kevin Owens is a guy like that feels that he should be bigger than he actually is. Like, in terms of star power, he is a star. He's won a lot of championships, had a lot of success, but he's not on the Seth Rollins level because they haven't booked him to be on that level. Keith Lee, I don't want to see the same thing happen to him, where he goes to the championship countless times and always fucking loses. Like, the guy needs a big win at some point, and he got a big win on Sunday, but they need to capitalize off of that and continue to build off of that. Not just rip his fucking legs right from underneath him and make him as mundane as everyone else in the show. But Kevin Owens is great, but he feels like a B+ player, that he's only an upper mid-carder. He doesn't feel like a main event star. There was no doubt in my mind that he was losing to Randy Orton on Monday's Raw this week. No doubt in my mind. And when you have a situation like that, it's like, okay, how much does Kevin Owens even really mean at this point? So they got to work on that. I hope Keith Lee doesn't suffer the same fate. And again, that's not a bad spot for a guy like Keith Lee to be upper mid-card, but I think he could be like a Rollins-esque guy if they book him the right way. And it's all about booking. It has nothing to do with, for the most part, with the performers themselves. It's all about how they portray these people to be big stars. So far, so good, but hopefully they can continue along that path and don't get bored with the guy just because there's no reactions or just because he has one bad night or whatever, or he cuts a poopy promo. You gotta see it through. Like Cedric Alexander, they're high-end pushing Cedric for like a fucking month before they got bored with him. And when I say they, I mean Vince. So hopefully the same thing does not happen to Keith Lee. Next question, also from @UWagu91. Your thoughts on Hangman Adam Page being, no pun intended, kicked out of the Elite? Interesting development. It was a long time coming. I mean, Page has been teasing tension with the Elite since like late last year. Literally since like November, December. So, and it's September as we speak right now. This probably would have happened a lot sooner. Had there been fans, had there been no pandemic, they probably would have lost the tag titles a long time ago too. But so I thought it was an interesting development. We'll see where it goes. I do think it leads to FTR beating Page and Omega on Saturday for the tag titles. What I think happened was that, FTR, they're trying to play mind games with Page. They're not being friends. I know there's been a lot of talk about FTR and Page joining forces as a faction. I think that'd be cool. But FTR are heels. Page should be a babyface. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What I think is happening is that they played mind games with Adam Page to turn on the Bucks, to make sure the Bucks didn't get that tag title shot of the pay-per-view. And now they can manipulate Page and essentially losing the match for them on Saturday and giving FTR the tag titles. That's what I see happening. And then instead of turning Adam Page heel, you turn Kenny Omega heel. And then the entire Elite is fucked at that point, which it should be, because it's time to move on from the whole Elite narrative. They've been doing this whole it's great storytelling. The acting from last week from Matt Jackson was terrible, but the storytelling has been great. with the members and stuff like that. I have no idea what Cody's status was, or is rather, before he got injured in storyline last week or 2 weeks ago. We haven't seen him with the Elite in a while, probably since Stadium Stampede. Oh, no, wait, he wasn't even in Stadium Stampede. He was supposed to be, but then, he was supposed to be, I think, in the War Games-esque match, but then that got bumped, so that never happened. Anyway, yeah, so we'll see where it goes, but they got to move on from the whole Elite shit. Kenny Omega's got to do his own thing, Paige has got to do his own thing, the Bucks have got to exist on their own, and Cody's already doing his own thing anyway. So, anyway, yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm very excited to see what happens in that tag team title match on Saturday at All Out. Their last question here, your thoughts on Sasha Banks once again losing the Raw Women's Championship while never successfully defending it once. Listen, it was an inevitable. I don't think they should have even put the belt on Bayley, or rather Sasha, to begin with. I know they wanted to do the whole, we hold all the gold, blah, blah, blah shit, and I guess it was entertaining for like a day or two, but it interrupted Asuka's reign. It was pointless. Asuka won it back anyway. I know they're doing this to tease more tension between Banks and Bayley, but they could have done that without putting the championship on Sasha. So they did this to themselves. Everyone complaining, Sasha never successfully retained the championship, blah, blah, blah. You know what? When she eventually beats Bayley for that SmackDown Women's Championship, and she absolutely should and probably will, I think a bigger match than doing Sasha and Bayley for the first time for that championship will be the rematch. And I was thinking about this the other day. Even better than the first match itself will be the rematch. Whether it be at the next pay-per-view, probably whatever. Because you can tell the story that Bayley knows, and I think Bayley's joked about this before, kind of in jest, and Sasha didn't really find it too funny, and storyline, that Sasha can't hold on to a championship to save her life. Yeah, they were tag team champions for a while, but I'm talking about a singles championship on the main roster. She has never successfully defended a championship once. She's been 5 times, the Raw Women's Champion 5 times, I think, has never once successfully defended that championship. So, what you can do, after she inevitably beats Bayley for that SmackDown Women's Championship, Bayley can come out and say, listen, congrats on the win, it was a fluke, but you can't hold on to that belt. You have never had a successful title defense on your own. You're a loser. You can't beat me. In that rematch, more than just, Sasha's going to win, we don't know. Sasha could very well lose the belt right back to Bayley because of the track record she has as a singles champion in the main roster. So I think there's a lot of potential there. That's great storytelling, I think, that they could play up the rematch as, listen, you've never held on to a championship for more than a month on your own on the main roster. And this time will be no different. So I'll beat you again at the next pay-per-view, whatever that might be. So I think there's a lot of potential there. I wasn't pissed when she lost at SummerSlam. She should have lost at SummerSlam. She's a SmackDown superstar holding a Raw title. It makes no fucking sense. Asuka should have never lost it in the first place. I thought that was dumb. But now they can continue along. They lost the tag title, so obviously they're headed for this split sooner rather than later, and thank fucking God, because it's been long enough. And the payoff, the blow-up should be great and all, but they should have done this 6 months ago. I know waiting is key in long-term storytelling, but if you drag something on for 5 years, there's going to reach a point where people just stop caring. It's going to reach that point. You can't strike too soon. You can't strike too late. We're quickly approaching that territory. They got to get to the big split within the next few months. And if they don't, I don't know. People would ask me, do you have Sasha win the Rumble and she faces Bayley at WrestleMania? Maybe, but that's another fucking 6 months, 6-7 months. That's a long time. Oh, that's too long. So probably not. I would probably do something else. And that's just assuming they're healthy. Sasha gets hurt like every other week. I have no faith that she will be healthy again by WrestleMania, and I really hope she is. But what if she gets hurt and she has to miss WrestleMania? So I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't wait till then. I hope they could do it in the next couple months, and maybe they change my mind. I would love for them to change my mind, drag this thing out, make it intriguing, but it's high time we get to the next chapter in this story. And thankfully, it appears that we are approaching that, which is good. At E13A, final question of the day. How do you feel about Vacant successfully defending the NXT Championship? In a nutshell, to answer your question, I thought the finish of that Iron Man match sucked on Wednesday. I really do. The match itself was very good, if not a great match. Definitely not the epic encounter that we all thought it would have been. The commercial breaks had a lot to do with that. The commercial break with 7 minutes left was fucking dumb. It was literally just catching up, it would take you out of the moment. And I feared that might be the case, and unfortunately it was. I thought it would just be an amazing match, and it was a very good match. Not like an all-time classic, one of the best of the year by any means. It was very good. The layout was good. The action was great. The commercial breaks really fucking hurt it. And then that finish did not help either. Like, that finish was dumb. I literally called it within, 30 minutes of the match, and probably people thought it might happen from the get-go. But I said to Alexis, they're probably going to do a dumb finish where Balor and Ciampa win at the last minute after everyone already ties, gets one win apiece, and then they do sudden death a week from now. I hate the fucking draws. They do not finishes enough. If they had never done this before, it would be, interesting. They do this so much that it's so fucking annoying. They do the draws so much. Why not do sudden death for 10 minutes right there? Oh, we got to go off the air. No, you don't. NXT used to go until 10:15 Eastern Time PM every week for a couple of weeks there when Dynamite first debuted. They could do that again if they wanted to. What the fuck is so important? Walking tall with The Rock, they can't start that at 10:15? Give me a break. I know they did it to hype up next week's match. I get it as a promotional tactic, but it's you don't deliver on it. They were promoting a new NXT champion. We didn't get it. They're saving that for next week. I fucking hate when they do that. WWE does it in the main event of pay-per-views a lot. That annoys me. Just because it's a pay-per-view, you should never do that for a pay-per-view. It's even worse. That's worse because you're having people pay money to see that dumb shit, only for the actual match to take place on Raw the next night. This was free TV, but it was still annoying. Again, I know why they did it, and it's not fans are impatient, you can't see it play out, blah, blah, blah. You promised a new fucking champion. You don't wait till next week. If you were going to do that shit, then do a fucking battle royal. I think I heard Solomonster pitch this, and I completely agree. You do a battle royal where the final two people face off in the next week's episode. Why didn't they just do that? It just completely demeans the Iron Man stipulation. And we all know Balor's going to win. It wasn't even Ciampa, it was Adam Cole. We know Adam Cole's not regaining the gold, nor should he. We know Balor's going to win, so why not just have fucking Balor win this week? And then promote a big title match for next week. Adam Cole and Finn Balor for some reason. I don't know. It's better than waiting until next week to crown a new champion. That's just fucking over your viewers. I thought that was really stupid. And what hurts me even more was that it was NXT. NXT doesn't normally do that shit. That's why it annoyed me. I thought that was a low blow. So fuck that. I thought it was really stupid. But I do fully expect Finn Balor to become champion next week. There is no chance in hell for the most part. They could always have Adam Cole win. I don't know why they would. But I just don't see a scenario where Adam Cole walks out the new champion after already losing to, after already losing the championship a literal month or two ago and having done everything that he can with that championship. He successfully defended that championship against everyone involved in that four-way. He's not going to feud with Ciampa again. He's not going to feud with Balor again. He's not going to feud with Gargano again. He's already faced, Keith Lee, who's now on Raw. Just move on. You got to move on at some point, So, I wasn't a big fan of that finish at all. I'm looking forward to next week's match. It should be great. But never, please, WWE. Please never do that shit again. I think that was incredibly dumb. Really, really stupid. And that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM, episode 353. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate the support. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Hit that little bell button as well to be notified every time a new video goes up, including tomorrow with WrestleRant radio excerpts. We got a ton of network and chill videos coming up in the next couple days between timeline reviews. I've got the Braun Strowman Chronicle review. I reviewed the WWE Day of on SummerSlam. There's a lot of videos that went up on the network that I'll be breaking down. A lot of content that went up on the network in the last week or two that I'll be breaking down in the days to come here on the channel. So that includes some, Talking Smack, Raw Talk, shit like that. So be sure to subscribe and never miss a video. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And drop your question down below on this very video in the comments section. And I'll be sure to include your video, or rather question, not your video, your question in next week's edition. I don't take all the questions. You might be wondering, why didn't you select my question, or why wasn't it answered, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I very rarely do I not see them. Sometimes if I don't answer your question, it's usually because either A, I've answered it recently, or B, I just don't really have an answer for you, and I just don't think it's a great question for the show. So I do take 85% of the questions, And those who do send in questions, thank you. Whether they're answered or not, I appreciate the support of the show. Thank you for listening, checking out the show. I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll be back with episode 354 next week right here on the channel. And that's about it. And also, quick announcement. Not that the announcement's being made here. I don't want to false advertise like NXT. But I am interviewing another WWE superstar. That announcement should be going live on the Twitter machine probably soon after this video goes up on YouTube, probably a little later on in the evening. So be sure to check that out. That interview will be up in article form this week. So have a great one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.